what we are doing right now, coming back to lockdowns and infection prevention measures, etc. Normally, during a natural pandemic, Matt,
yes,
the virus will feel no pressure
that's right.
to select mutations. Why? Well, I'm just telling the youngsters, their innate immune system gets suppressed. And of course, there is only a limited reservoir as well of youngsters that will be susceptible to the disease. So this reservoir gets exhausted. But by the time it gets exhausted, the first group, their antibodies will start to wane, right? The first group, these people with weak innate immunity, they mounted, those who survived, of course, they mounted antibodies, they were protected against disease, but that immunity starts to wane, right? Now the virus just jumps back to all the folks that are seropositive or were seropositive because the antibodies start to wane. And so what do we have? We have a fabulous thing. I mean, this is just, the beauty, in fact, of nature. This strain doesn't feel any need to become more infectious because at any time in the pandemic, it finds a susceptible, a population, a subpopulation that is susceptible to the disease, right? Yep. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
but then what happens though? Does it die out slowly as it jumps between populations?
Of course. Why? Because, so then I was saying, you're going back to the first population, right? Those who were seropositive. And then, of course, they get reinfected, not all at the same time, of course. But remember, they have now acquired immune responses.
Yes.
So they have memory. So as soon as they get infected, they mount their antibodies immediately. And then the youngsters who got the disease are starting to doing the same. Yep. So what do you get here? And this is incredibly important. That is what we wanted to achieve with the vaccines, and which is completely failing, herd immunity.
Herd immunity, yes.
Do I need to explain this? Or the vast majority now of the people are protected. What we're doing with the vaccines right now, and that's why I really don't get it, the end game was herd immunity. Herd immunity means, I will still repeat it, my own words for everybody to be clear about this, is that you protect the majority of people and you try to prevent or to reduce the shedding and the transmission as much as you can, so that the 10 or the 20 or the 30% of the people who are not vaccinated, who have not been naturally infected yet, they are not infected because the chance of the transmission to them is too low because there are too many people protected. But what we do right now with the vaccines, and especially now that there's highly infectious strains or variants, I should say, are circulating, is that we come with vaccines that can no longer fully protect. People are still protected for now against disease, against severe disease also, but they are no longer protected against shedding and transmission of the virus. So, and we see that people get vaccinated and they are still shedding virus, maybe less than, people who get, or people who mount homologous antibodies, but still these variants are able to a large extent already to escape to the immune response to an extent that they can now shed a virus. So instead of generating herd immunity, we are doing exactly the same, because these folks now become asymptomatic carriers. We are turning these people into asymptomatic carriers asymptomatic carriers if they get, of course, exposed to the virus. But they will get exposed because I'm saying we are in the midst of a war with increasingly infectious variants circulating, right? So the likelihood that these people get infected is pretty high, and they shed the virus and they transmit it. And the people who are not infected, they are not aware. These people are vaccinated. They think they are protected. They have no symptoms, of course. And that is part of the disaster that is going on. Because what is the end? The end game was herd immunity, right? You agree with me? This was the purpose of the vaccination. And we were just doing the opposite. That there is no talk about herd immunity. So what are we doing?